Okay, so we're coming over to Katrina. I'm going to take back the screen and pass it over to Katrina. Katrina is in as a panelist. Katrina, can you speak up? I want to make sure I'm going to make the right one of you.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yay.
Great.
Okay, so I'm making
Okay,
you a
share my
presenter. You can share screen, and you can also share your webcam if you would like to, but we can see your screen, so it's over to you.
Oh, great. I would share my webcam. However, my computer won't allow me to. We don't use GoToWebinar, so I don't have preferences to be able to open it up. So I apologize for that, and I was all ready for that. So you are able to see the presentation though, correct?
Yes, we see that it said COVID
Okay.
hasn't stopped this. So we're excited to hear from you. Go ahead.
Okay, well, fantastic. Thank you so much. I first and foremost want to congratulate everyone that has joined in today. It has been amazing to hear from everyone. It's been amazing to see all the awards that have been out. I think you said there were 65 winners. Absolutely incredible. So I knew today that there was going to be a lot of talk about, of course, COVID. I mean, we're all living in this, and so coming from the company SHI, I was trying to figure out, what would be something exciting that I could bring in and talk about today. And the one thing that came to mind was esports. And so before I get into that, this is what I look like. So I apologize, you can't see me, but I am Dr. Katrina Adkins. I am a senior program director for K-12 and higher education at SHI. And if you've not heard of SHI, we are a company, actually the largest minority woman-owned private company in the United States. And so we are a reseller, but I am really primarily focused on distance education, on STEM, on STEAM, on esports, on all kinds of different things, learning, space design. I say all the fun things. So when I was thinking today about all the various things that I could talk about, I started to think, what didn't change when COVID happened last March? And that was esports. So for those of you that don't know much about esports, esports is basically electronic gaming, and it has absolutely taken K-12 by storm, as well as higher education. But there is so much movement right now in K-12 with esports, and it is just one of the things that didn't have to stop because our students were already on devices, they were already gaming, they already had everything set up, and so the gaming seasons just continued. It was kind of neat to watch. So while we all had to pause and figure out how we were going to teach and learn and get webcams and get Chromebooks and get all these devices and connectivity into the hands of students, esports just was continuing in the background. And so so I wanted to share a little bit of information with you just about esports. I am very passionate about it, but what's interesting about esports is that this is something that has been around since really the 1970s. In fact, this game that you see up on the screen right here may even look familiar to you, Space Invaders, but it might be a game that you played when you were younger. But this has been going on for quite a while, and so the concept of gaming in schools is not something new. It's just that we're figuring out in the education space how to make this happen, how to make it happen safely, how to give students a new opportunity, not only to game, but for jobs, for colleges, and I'll get into that in just a moment. And so I kind of like to think back actually to the 80s because I'm an 80s kid. And I remember gaming really coming up when this movie came out. And some of you might say, oh my gosh, I remember that. Fred Savage was in this movie. This was a super cool movie. And you might remember this. This movie was actually called The Wizard. And I always thought it was just so cool. This is when Super Mario 3 was just launching, and they had to travel around the country and go to arcades and compete ultimately for this, prize. And that's exactly what's going on in schools today, just on a kind of different scale. So when we think back to the 80s, though, the trying to compete with other students, even in the same school or town, was near impossible unless you were physically traveling to those spaces or an arcade to compete. Once the 90s hit, you started to see this concept of LAN parties happening, and students would actually put their computers, these giant computers, into like wagons, into their cars, and they would all get together and they would connect, and they would game together. And so it's funny to kind of watch the progression of gaming, but students didn't let, really, they didn't let parents stop them. They didn't let educators stop them. They didn't let the times stop them. They figured out ways that they were going to connect. They were going to game. They were going to sometimes even win, whether that was prize money or some type of a prize. So really cool stuff was happening when I was young. So, coming up to speed today, in 2020, almost 2021, really what's happening now? And we're looking at really comparing, how does esports compare to our traditional sports that we know, basketball, baseball, football. And it's really interesting because the NFL right now has the most viewers. And a lot of people don't know that esports comes in second to the NFL in terms of viewership online. So esports is just absolutely crushing it across the world in terms of students, adults that are watching esports happen. So as I've started to kind of build out our esports program at SHI, really what I wanted to do was figure out how I could best help support schools and support students. And so I've taken this fairly slowly over the last year and tried to figure out all these pieces and how can I bring them together. And I started by taking the word esports and figuring out words that go with each letter to describe esports itself. So of course, endurance. You have to have endurance in order to be in any sport, and as well as esports. Esports helps build self-esteem. In fact, I'll tell a quick story. I was up at the University of Delaware, and which I'll share in just a moment, some pictures, but they were having their grand opening of their esports arena. It was actually the week before COVID hit, and I was standing there and I was talking with one of the gamers, and we just got into this conversation, and she said, my brother also competes, and he is autistic. And she said he's severely autistic, and he went through all of K-12 and on into college really without friends, without talking, without speaking to others. And she said esports changed his life. It gave him a life where he could now speak to other students in a different way, and it just absolutely changed his entire world. So self-esteem is huge within esports. It also brings problem solving, objectives, of course, relationships. Students have to learn teamwork just like they would with any other sports, and stamina as well. So there's so much involved. We did talk about viewers in the United States. I told you just the impact that it has had across the United States. Esports coming in second, of course, to the NFL. I'm sure that's probably news to some of you, but quite amazing. So as over this last year, I've traveled around the country just looking at various programs. This is actually pictures from Naperville North in Illinois. I got to see their space, meet some of their students. The student over to the right here, he actually went on this year on a college scholarship to play esports at a college in Illinois. But what was so cool about this student is it was, I think, the 7th in the world in a particular game that he was competing in. He was making more money than I make, just in esports, in competing. And so there I was standing with this high school, senior, and he told me kind of to the side just how he feels cool. He's like, I never thought I'd be cool, and I feel cool being a part of esports. So I really enjoy getting around to schools and seeing their spaces. Of course, it's taken a turn with COVID. I haven't gotten into schools recently, but hope to get back into them in 2021. One of the boards that you may be familiar with, or organizations, I should say, is something called NASIF. And NASIF helps support students, not just in gaming, but to go out and get jobs, or to go on to college. And this chart kind of shows different jobs that students can go into. So they're not just gamers. They're not going to be just sitting behind a screen. I remember my parents, they didn't want me sitting behind the TV or a screen because, I would go cross-eyed, or, all these things would happen to me. And, that's not necessarily the case. Actually, esports is teaching students so many different things that we never thought it would. But these are some of the jobs that students can go into. And NASIP is definitely leading the way in helping to support state organizations and helping to support students move into some of those jobs. So I don't know if you knew this either, but there are universities out there, such as Shenandoah University, that have esports as a major. This is happening all over our country, and Shenandoah was the first one to have esports as a major. So if I'm a student, I can actually go to a university and major in esports. So what does that mean? Does that mean that I'm going to be a professional gamer? Not necessarily. In fact, I sat with these students that you see, or talked with these students that you see on the screen right now. I actually interviewed them. I featured them on our summer education esports symposium. And my question to them was, what are you majoring in? And a lot of them were majoring in the esports industry, as I mentioned, but some of them were just majoring in, computer science. One of them, I think, was majoring in music. But it's just quite interesting, just the types of students that are choosing to, game and go into esports, and the different jobs that they go into. But I think it's really neat that schools are now offering esports as a major. With that, students can go into all kinds of different things, broadcasting, shoutcasting, marketing, all different kinds of things. And I'm watching the clock right now. I know I have 1 minute left, but just to kind of show you some of the things that we're able to do, of course, at SHI, and the things that I love to do personally are help schools get off the ground with their esports programs, even build out arenas. In fact, this is the arena at the University of Delaware. Just incredible spaces for students, and just some of the partners that we work with every single day, in and out. Curriculum partners, furniture partners. Of course, you see Lenovo, HP, Dell, all the partners that you would expect. But if I had an hour to talk with you, we would go in depth about curriculum and all different kinds of things in terms of esports. But I had a video I wanted to show you, and I know I'm out of time, but right now we are hosting, along with several partners, something called Battle Academy. We are giving away $25,000 in scholarships just to get schools equipped with things that they need to get their esports programs off the ground. So we have, I think, 400 students involved in this right now, currently competing at the K-12 and collegiate level. We're really excited about it. I was going to show you this video, but I know we don't have time. So this was a quick, down and dirty 15 minutes on esports, but just wanted to share something fun and light with you today through all this COVID that has just been so draining to all of us. But thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. It has just been amazing to see some of you on here. Again, congratulations to all of you who have won an award. If you would like to connect with me, my information is up there. And again, Leilani, thank you so much. This has just been an honor and a pleasure to be here. I really do appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Katrina. Dr. Atkins, we're delighted to have you, and I'm so glad for this work that you're doing our survey showed a huge upsurge in interest in this area. So I'm glad you guys have gotten behind it and you're doing so much with it. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you. I appreciate it.